The rain hammered the windows of the high-rise apartment like fists demanding entry. But inside, the silence was a blade slicing through my chest. I clutched the crumpled letter in my fist, its words blurring under the dim lamplight. Samuel, you belong to me. Always. 3 years of my life. Stolen in whispers and promises. And now, as I stood on the precipice of escape, I wondered if freedom was just another cage waiting to snap shut. My name is Samuel Rivera, and this is the story of how love twisted into chains, how I broke them, and why every shadow in this city still whispers his name. I was 22 when I first met Alexander Hale, fresh out of community college in Brooklyn, with dreams bigger than my empty pockets. New York City was a beast that chewed up kids like me, Latino roots from a single mom in Queens. Scraping by on barista shifts and late-night poetry slams where my words felt like the only thing truly mine. I identified as gay. But back then, it was more a quiet truth I carried like a hidden scar, shared only in stolen glances at pride parades or the rare hookups that left me emptier than before. Life was a grind, dodging eviction notices, watching mom's hands tremble over bills, and chasing a writing gig that never quite materialized. That's when Alexander walked into the coffee shop on a crisp autumn morning, his suit cutting through the steam like a shark through fog. He ordered a black coffee. No sugar. His voice smooth as aged whiskey, eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made the room tilt. You're not just pouring drinks, he said, sliding a 20 across the counter with a tip that could cover my rent. There's fire in those hands. I laughed it off, cheeks burning. But he lingered, asking about my scribbled notebook, the half-finished stories peeking from its pages. By closing time, he had my number. And just like that, the hook was set. Our first date was a whirlwind. Dinner at a rooftop spot in Midtown where the skyline glittered like forbidden jewels. His hand brushing mine as he spoke of his world-top-tier corporate lawyer at a firm that devoured fortunes for breakfast. Born and bred in Connecticut old money. Now conquering Manhattan at 35. He was everything I wasn't, polished, powerful, untouchable. And he saw me. Really saw me. You're raw, Samuel, he murmured over dessert, his fingers tracing the edge of my glass. Like poetry no one's dared to read aloud. That night, under the stars, he kissed me, and for the first time, I felt chosen, not pitted, not tolerated, but desired. We tumbled into his penthouse, bodies and breaths intertwining. But it was the way he held me after, whispering plans for us, that sealed it. I ignored the voice in my head, the one warning that men like him didn't fall for baristas. The early months were a dream I didn't want to wake from. Alexander swept me into his orbit, weekends in the Hamptons, where I'd lounge by infinity pools reading Kerouac while he took calls that moved mountains. He bought me clothes-crisp shirts that fit like they were sewn from confidence and enrolled me in writing workshops at NYU, footing the bill with a casual swipe of his card. Investing in your light, he'd say, eyes softening in a way that made my heart ache. Mom met him over Sunday brunch in our cramped kitchen, her eyes widening at the flowers he brought, the easy charm that had her calling him mi hijo by dessert. I came out to her fully then, tears streaming as I confessed the fear I'd buried since high school lockers and sideways glances. She hugged me tight, whispering, "Love who loves you back. Mijo." Alexander was that love fierce, enveloping, a shield against the world's sharp edges. But cracks formed like hairline fractures in glass. It started small, his suggestions on my outfits before his firm dinners, his brow furrowing if I lingered too long at poetry nights with friends he deemed unambitious. "They don't see your potential," he'd say, voice laced with concern, pulling me closer on the leather couch of his office. I nodded, because who was I to argue? He was building me up, wasn't he? Pushing me toward a freelance gig at a literary mag, editing my pieces with red pen strokes that stung but sharpened. My world shrank and expanded in tandem, fewer shifts at the coffee shop. More nights drafting emails under his watchful eye. Sex became a ritual of possession, his hands mapping my body like territory claimed. But I'd push the unease down, focusing on the afterglow. The way he'd murmur, "You're mine, Samuel. Don't ever forget." By our first anniversary, the control tightened like a noose disguised as care. He proposed we move in together, not into my Queen's walk-up, but his Tribeca loft with views that mocked my old life. For us, he insisted, framing it as partnership. I said yes, heart pounding, because leaving Mom felt like betrayal. But his promises of stability drowned it out. Packing my things, I found old journals from my teens, pages filled with dreams of traveling solo, writing unfiltered truths, and shoved them into a box, telling myself this was growth. Friends drifted. My best buddy from slam nights, Javier, texted less after Alexander politely suggested he was a distraction. He's just protective, I told myself in the mirror, tracing the new watch on my wrist. Its weight a constant reminder. The second year blurred into a haze of his schedule dictating mine. Alexander's firm exploded with a high-profile case defending a tech mogul against embezzlement charges, and he came home wired, eyes hollow from 16-hour days. I'd wait with dinners gone cold. My own writing stalled because focus on supporting me now. Your time will come. Jealousy crept in when I mentioned a cute editor at the mag, his grip on my arm tightening as he laughed it off. Darling, no one measures up to what we have. Nights turned into interrogations masked as pillow talk, where I'd been, who I'd texted, why my phone buzzed at odd hours. I started deleting messages, curating my stories to fit his narrative. Mom noticed during visits, her eyes searching mine over empanadas. You seem quieter, Samuel. Is everything okay? I'd force a smile, blame stress, but inside, doubt festered like an untreated wound. One evening, after a gala where I stood silent in a rented tux, smiling for his colleagues who called me the muse, we argued for the first time. It was over nothing, a lingering hug from an old friend, but his voice rose, cold and cutting. Do you even appreciate what I've given you? Without me, you'd still be slinging lattes. Invisible. The words landed like punches, stripping me bare. I stormed out, wandering the rain-slick streets until my phone buzzed with apologies, flowers delivered, voicemails pleading forgiveness. I went back, because the alternative, facing the void without him, terrified me more. But that night, as he held me, whispering how he'd fix us, I felt the first real fracture. Love wasn't supposed to feel like drowning. As winter gripped the city in its icy fist, the control morphed into something darker, more insidious. Alexander's paranoia bloomed with his caseload. He'd installed tracking on my phone for safety, monitoring my runs in Central Park like a hawk. My writing, once a spark, dwindled to fragment stories he deemed too exposing, too queer in their rawness. Tone it down, he'd advise, his lawyer's precision dissecting my soul. I internalized it, rewriting myself into someone safer, smaller. Pride Month came and went. Last year, we'd marched hand in hand, his arm a proud anchor. This time, he canceled, citing work, leaving me to watch from the sidelines, heart twisting as rainbows mocked my isolation. The breaking point simmered through spring. Mom's health scary, a fall down the stairs. Hospital bills piling like snowdrifts forced me to borrow from him. Gratitude turned to obligation. He paid without hesitation, but tallied it in subtle ways. Remember who holds the safety net. I confided in a therapist he'd recommended his choice, of course spilling fragments of the cage, only to have her echo his lines. He sounds devoted. Communication is key. Doubt compounded. Was I the problem? Too needy? too fractured from a childhood of absent dads and whispered slurs. Summer brought the storm. We vacationed in the Berkshires. His idea of escape. But the cabin felt like an extension of the loft locked doors. Spotty signal. His eyes following my every step. One night, after too much wine, I confronted him. I feel like I'm disappearing. Alex, this isn't love. It's ownership. His face darkened. Not with anger, but something colder pity. You're lost without structure. Samuel, I give you purpose. The argument escalated. Words flying like shrapnel, my ingratitude. His sacrifices. I grabbed my keys. Fled to the porch. The humid air thick with cicadas' dirge. In that moment, staring at fireflies dancing free, I saw it, 3 years. And I'd become a ghost in my own skin. Returning to the city alone on a Greyhound. Heart hammering. I crashed at Javier's in Bushwick. He didn't pry. Just handed me a beer and space. Days blurred into weeks job hunting. Therapy on my terms. Journaling the truths I'd buried. Alexander's texts barraged, please. Then threats veiled as concern, come home. Or lose everything. I blocked him. But fear lingered. A shadow in every subway car. Every upscale brunch spot where his face might appear. Fall leaves turned gold as I rebuilt. Brick by fragile brick. A part-time gig at a queer bookstore led to readings where my voice, rusty but real, drew nods from strangers who saw Minute the polished version, but the raw poet with scars. Mom rallied. Her strength a mirror. We talked late into nights about resilience. About loving without losing self. You're enough. Me, Joe. She'd say. And slowly, I believed it. One crisp October morning, exactly 3 years from that coffee shop encounter, I spotted him across Union Square. Alexander. Unchanged, suit impeccable. Stride commanding. Arm linked with a young intern type. His laugh carrying on the wind. Our eyes met. A jolt like lightning. And time folded the boy I was. The man I'd become. Colliding in that gaze. He paused. Mouth opening. But I turned. Heart steady. Walking toward the farmer's market where life pulsed unscripted. Now, at 25, I live in a walk-up in Harlem. Words flowing freer than ever. My debut chapbook. Unchained verses. Hits shelves next month, tales of queer hearts navigating storms. Dedicated to those who break free. Mom beams from her recovery. Dating a kind nurse who makes her laugh. Javier's my chosen family. Our slams alive with fire. And Alexander. I pray our paths never cross again. Not out of hate, but grace, for I've learned forgiveness starts within. And my light, once dimmed, now burns bright enough for two. Yet in quiet moments, staring at the skyline from my fire escape, I wonder, was it all a villain's tale? Or a teacher's harsh lesson? Love, I've found, isn't control's grip, but release's gentle hand. And in that release, I found myself whole. Worthy. Unbound. The ink on my lease felt like a tattoo of triumph. Permanent against the transient chaos of New York. But freedom's aftertaste was bittersweet. Laced with echoes of Alexander's voice in my dreams, commanding. Coaxing. Always one step ahead. I threw myself into the bookstore routine, shelving titles by Audre Lorde and James Baldwin. Their words a balm for the bruises I couldn't see. Customers became lifeline swidos seeking solace in memoirs. Teens with tentative questions about coming out. Their eyes mirroring my younger self's terror and thrill. One afternoon, a wiry kid named Theo, barely 18, lingered by the LGBTQ+ section, fingers tracing spines like Braille. Is it worth it? He whispered, voice cracking. I knelt beside him, sharing just enough. The pain carves space for joy. Trust the carving hurts for a reason. Nights, I'd write until dawn, pages spilling confessions I'd never voiced aloud. The chapbook took shape in fevered bursts, poems of silk ties turned nooses, of bodies claimed and reclaimed. Javier read drafts over greasy diner eggs. His feedback blunt, "This shit's gold, Sammy." But dig deeper, show the boy before the break. He was right. My arc demanded roots. So I revisited the start. Not with rose-tinted glasses, but unflinching lens. That first year with Alexander wasn't all illusion. There were truths in the tenderness, lessons in the lavish. He'd introduced me to queer icons at galas, his network opening doors I'd only dreamed of. But power imbalances festered unspoken as wealth a moat. My gratitude a bridge I crossed too eagerly. Mom's apartment became sanctuary, her kitchen the heart of our rebuilds. After her fall, she'd moved in with a cousin temporarily. But now, with Alexander's gifts returned via certified mail, watches ticking like accusations, clothes folded with finality, she reclaimed her space. We cooked together, Arrozcan gandals steaming as stories flowed. "He dazzled you like fireworks," she said one evening, stirring the pot with rhythmic wisdom. But fireworks fade. Family endures. Her own past surfaced, then a love lost to machismo in Puerto Rico. Migration to Queens, a solo odyssey. I survived by remembering my worth. She confessed, eyes distant. Her resilience mirrored mine. A genetic echo, urging me forward. Therapy, too. Evolvedno, more Alexander vetted shrinks. But a queer-affirming counselor in Chelsea. Dr. Lena, whose office smelled of chamomile and acceptance. Sessions unearthed layers, the abandonment wounds from dad's ghost. Internalized homophobia from schoolyard taunts. How Alexander's control preyed on those fissures. "You weren't weak," she'd affirm, her voice a steady anchor. "You were surviving a storm you didn't invite." Homework assignments pushed boundaries, volunteering at a youth center, facilitating workshops where kids like Theo shared verses of their storms. Witnessing their sparks reignited mine. I wasn't just healing, but harvesting hope to sow elsewhere. Yet triggers lurked in the city's veins. A boardroom slick man on the F train, phone glued to ear in that authoritative timbre, sent my pulse racing. I'd grip my notebook, scribble frantic lines to ground myself, breath in, chains out. You are the key. Social media was a minefield. Mutual connections posted gala pics. Alexander's smile predatory as ever, arm around fresh faces. I unfollowed, but curiosity gnawed. Had he changed? Or was I just another chapter closed? Dr. Lena warned against the rabbit hole. Closure comes from within, not his narrative. Winter crept in, snow blanketing brownstones like forgotten apologies. The chapbook launch loomed a small reading at the bookstore. Flyers plastered on lampposts promising unchained verses, a queer odyssey. Nerves gnawed, but excitement bubbled beneath. Javier co-hosted, his energy a whirlwind. Mom baked flan for the after-party, her pride a quiet glow. Rehearsals in my apartment turned confessional, reciting silk and shackles. The piece on our entanglement, voice trembling then steadying. In his arms, I was Atlas/bearing worlds not mine/ until the map tore/ and I walked alone. The night arrived, air electric with possibility. 30 souls packed the space, Theo in the front row, eyes wide, strangers drawn by word of mouth, even a scout from a small press. I stepped to the mic, heard a drum solo, and began. 3 years ago, I let a man rewrite my story. Words poured, raw and rhythmic, drawing gasps, nods, tears. Applause thundered like release, hands clapping my back. Whispers of "This is us." A woman in her 40s hugged me post-reading. "Your words freed something in me tonight." In that moment, purpose crystallized. Writing wasn't escape, but bridge. connecting fractured hearts. Post-launch, buzz hummed. Reviews trickled in. A podcast invite followed. But success's shadow brought old ghosts. A week later, an email from an unknown address. Proud of you. Darling. Let's talk. Attached. A photos at that first rooftop. Young and unscarred. Alexander. My stomach plummeted. How had he found out? Block numbers meant nothing to a man who bent rules for sport. I forwarded it to Dr. Lena. Hands shaking. Her reply swift. Boundaries. Samuel. Respond with silence. It's your loudest statement. Silence became armor. I dove deeper into community mentoring at the youth center, co-founding a writers' circle for queer ladies' voices. Bonds formed. Rosa, a trans poet fleeing family rejection. Malik, a non-binary activist with firebrand prose. Our gatherings, held in Javier's loft over takeout and candlelight, wove safety nets from shared scars. We're not survivors, Rosa declared one night, raising a glass. We're architects building worlds anew. Spring thawed the ice, mirroring my thaw. Mom's first date bloomed into something tender. Watching her laugh at a comedy show, hand in Louise's, mended a piece of me I'd thought irreparable. See, she teased post-date, linking arms as we strolled Flushing Meadows. Second acts are the sweetest. My own horizons widened a fellowship application for a residency in Provincetown. Whispers of publication deals. Yet beneath the bloom, vigilance lingered. New York's vastness promised anonymity. But fate's humor was cruel. It struck on a blooming May afternoon. Union Square alive with buskers and vendors. I was browsing zines. Theo chattering beside me about his first crush. When the crowd parted. Alexander, striding through like he owned the air. In turn on his arm slimmer now. Eyes darting. Our gazes locked. Time fracturing, his surprise. My steal. He mouthed something sorry. Name. But I turned, guiding Theo away. Voice calm. Ice cream. My treat. No backward glance. Forward was my compass. That encounter, brief as a skipped heartbeat, catalyzed clarity. In therapy, I unpacked it not trauma's revival, but power's reclamation. You've rewritten the ending. Dr. Lena noted. Summer brought the residency acceptance. A month by the sea to polish the manuscript. Cape Cod waves crashed like applause. Pages flying under salt air. Letters to Mom. Javier. The circle each a thread in my tapestry. Back in the city. Fall's palette painted change. The full manuscript sold. Title evolving to Echoes Unbound. Launch party at a bigger venue. Rainbow flags fluttering. Alexander's shadow. Faded to footnote. I pray our paths diverge eternally. Not from bitterness, but blooming. For in the unraveling, I wove wholeness a testament that love, true and free, lifts without leashing. The fellowship in Provincetown was a revelation. A sabbatical from the city's relentless pulse. The cottage perched on a dune. Windows framing Atlantic swells that whispered secrets older than my scars. Mornings began with yoga on the sand. Body unfolding like a long-held breath. Followed by writing marathons where words cascaded unchecked. No Alexander to edit my edges. Here, vulnerability was ink, not shame. I pinned the memoir's core, threads of control, interweaving poetry with prose. Tracing the arc from enchantment to emancipation. Evenings, I'd wander the artist colony, mingling with painters and playwrights whose stories echoed mine, loves lost to ambition. Identities forged in fire. One twilight, sharing wine on a pier with Elena, a sculptor twice my age. I confessed the memoir's genesis. He didn't just control my days. I said, voice low against the tide. He colonized my dreams, every aspiration filtered through his lens. Elena nodded, her hands scarred from clay battles. Control thrives on isolation. You broke it by reclaiming narrative. Her words lingered, inspiring a chapter on community as counterspell vignettes of the writer's circle. Theo's growth from whisperer to spoken-word star. Back in Harlem by September's end, the city embraced me anew. The walk-up, once a crash pad, now hummed with life, bookshelves groaning under galleys. A balcony herb garden thriving under my novice care. Javier crashed often. Our bromance a constant late-night FIFA tournaments punctuating deep dives on life post-Alexander. Dude, you're glowing, he'd say, pausing the game to fist bump. Like radioactive levels of boss. Mom's romance with Luis deepened. Holidays blended traditions, Thanksgiving turkey alongside Pernell. Laughter filling spaces silence once claimed. The memoir's buzz built steadily, advanced copies to beta readers. Endorsements from Baldwin scholars praising its visceral humanism. But promotion meant exposure. And exposure courted risk. A radio interview loomed WNYC's Queerlit Hour where I discuss love's darker geometries. Prep with Dr. Lena focused on grounding. Speak your truth. Not as shadow. The studio, tucked in Midtown, felt worlds away from Tribeca Lofts. Host Mira, a warm-voiced essayist, drew me out gently. Samuel, your title screams survival. What chained you? I breathed deep, voice steady. A man who mistook possession for partnership. But chains forge strength when broken. Callers flooded line stories of coercive loves. Queer youth finding solace in my lines. One voice cracked over the airwaves. Your book. It's like you wrote my unspoken diary. Tears pricked. Impact rippled beyond pages. Post-show. Emails poured, invites to panels. Collaborations with advocacy groups. Yet amid triumph. A parcel Aravedno sender. Just a leather-bound journal. My handwriting from year one. Poems he'd improved with his notes. Enclosed note. Miss the real you. Coffee. Alexander's script. Elegant as ever. Rage simmered. Then cooled to resolve. I burned the journal in a metal bowl on my fire escape. Ashes scattering like released birds. No reply. Instead, a blog post on gifts and ghosts, framing it as catalyst. Not curse. Shares exploded. Virality, a double-edged sword, support swelled. But trolls lurked. Dissecting my drama. Dr. Lena coached resilience. Hate's echo of your power. Amplify the light. Winter's grip loosened into a mild El Niño. Mirroring my thaw. The memoir launch anchored New Year essay sold-out affair at Housing Works bookstore. Space aglow with fairy lights and faces from every chapter. Mom front row. Luis at her side. Javier emceeing with roasts that had me doubling over. Theo opening with a piece I'd mentored. His voice thunder. I read from the epilogue. Freedom is an absence of storm. But dance within it. Q&A delved deep questions on healing. On queerness and Lading's families. On turning pain to purpose. A non-binary reader approached after. You made space for my mess. Thank you. Post-launch. Momentum surged. Tour dates from Seattle to Miami. Each stop a homecoming. In Chicago, a blizzard-bound reading drew a crowd huddled for warmth and words. Their stories post-Stevens whispers of abuse survived wove me into their fabric. Back home. Awards chatter Hamida Lambda literary nod. Improbable but earned. Yet solitude crept in evenings. The highs come down revealing hollows. Dates flickered coffee with a bar poet. Sparks fizzling into friendship but trust rebuilt slowly. Brick by deliberate brick. Spring unfurled with collaborations, co-writing a youth zine with the center. Voices unsilenced. Amplifying emerging talents. Rose's pieces on trans joy. Malik's on intersectional rage, our collective of force. Mom's engagement to Luis. A quiet ceremony in June became my anchor. Walking her down the aisle in a sun-dappled park, I saw cycles break and mend. To new beginnings. She toasted. Eyes on mine. Summer heat waves tested metal. A tabloid snippet surfaced Alexander's firm and scandal. Ethics breach whisper Skarma's subtle nod. But I scrolled past, focusing on my ascent. A TEDx invite arrived, reclaiming narrative in the age of control. Script poured, data on coercive dynamics in queer relationships. Personal arc as proof of pivot. Stage lights in Boston. Audience wrapped. Applause a wave crashing home. Fall's harvest reaped abundance. Lambda when announced. Ceremony in LA a blur of tuxes and toasts. Acceptance speech. Heartful. To those still change your key exists within. Use it. Alexander's absence. A mercy. Whispers reached me later attended incognito. Slipped out before mingling. No contact. Prayers answered in distance. Now, at 26. The skyline from my growing balcony now, with potted jasmine feels like ally. Not adversary. The memoir's sequel brews. Not revenge. But ripple, how one break births multitudes. I'm in Theo's first open mic. Watch him shine. Mom's home brims with Luis's gardens. Javier plans a road trip Route 66. Queer pit stops galore. Our paths. May they parallel eternally. His in polished corridors. Mine in unbound verse. For in the unraveling, I discovered grace not erasure, but evolution. Love, liberated, is the ultimate rebellion. The Lambda ceremony afterglow lingered like champagne haze. But reality's rhythm resumed with gentle insistence. Back in New York, the wind opened floodgates, speaking gigs at universities, where lecture halls brimmed with undergrads hungry for hope. At Columbia one crisp October eve, I fielded questions on narrative theft, how abusers rewrite victim stories. A shy hand rose. How do you know when to leave? My paws stretched. Memories surfacing Alexander's first suggestion. Then the last plea. When staying erodes your essence more than going scares you. I replied. Nods rippled. Afterward, a cluster lingered. Sharing fragments texts monitored. Dreams deferred. I listened. Not as expert, but echo. Writing the sequel. Tentatively ripples of release. Demanded excavation. No longer memoir's raw wound. It charted aftershocks, community as salve. Self-forgiveness as surgery. Chapters wove Theo's arc is coming out to conservative parents. My role is sounding board. Javier contributed forward. His humor a counterweight. Sammy turned poison to punchlines. That's the real magic. Mom's input grounded at letters from her youth. Parallels and patriarchal yokes. We women know control's face. She wrote. Yours were a suit. Mine a sombrero. Same beast. Holiday season approached. A gauntlet of joy laced with ghosts. Thanksgiving at Mom's blended families. Luis's Dominican flair mingling with our Puerto Rican staples. Laughter drowning old aches. Yet carving turkey. Knife in hand. Flashbacks flickered Alexander's lessons in precision. His grip guiding mine. I shook it off. Toasting instead. To tables that hold us whole. Christmas brought snow-globed magic. Theo joined. His gift a handmade journal for your unchained thoughts. Inscribing the first page. I vowed continuity mentorship as legacy. New year dawned with resolve. Expand the writer's circle into a nonprofit. Unbound Inc. Grants pending for workshops in underserved boroughs. Rosa led trans-focused sessions. Malik intersectional ones. My role. Visionary. Fundraiser. Fool for the cause. Pitch meetings in sleek offices tested Scar's execs with Alexander's polish, but my pitch landed firm. Stories safe. We're arming the storytellers. Seed funding flowed. First event in February. A Bronx library packed with kids from projects. Pins flying like freed birds. Personal life stirred tentatively. A reading in Brooklyn introduced Kai, a graphic novelist with ink-stained fingers and a laugh like summer rain. Our first coffee stretched hours talks on craft. Queerness in comics verse. No rush. Dates unfolded slow. Walks in Prospect Park where he sketched me mid-rant. Capturing fire unfiltered. You're not performing, he said softly. One dusk. You're just you. Vulnerability bloomed cautious. Trust, once shattered, rebuilt with whispers. Spring's renewal mirrored inner shifts. Dr. Lena and I tapered session's graduation of sorts, her parting gift a metaphor. You're the phoenix now. Fly wide. Travels beckoned, a book tour leg to San Francisco, where fog-shrouded readings evoked Baldwin's ghosts. At a Castro cafe, fans shared survival tales. One elder, 80-something, clasped my hand. Boy, you remind my love's worth the war. His eyes, lined with decades, held histories I'd honored in print. Back east, Unbound Inc.'s inaugural retreat, a weekend in the Catskills. Cabins echoing with recitations. Theo facilitated icebreakers. His confidence a quiet pride. Around campfires, confessions circled, abuses veiled as affection. Identities policed. My fireside talk, from cage to canvas, drew tears. Hugs afterward sealed bonds. One participant, a burly ex-Marine named Diego, pulled me aside. Your book got me to therapy. First time admitting. He controlled more than my schedule. Reciprocity healed. Giving mirrored receiving. Summer simmered with milestones. Kai and I deepened picnics in the High Line. His illustrations for my next chapbook. No declarations, but ease settled. A counterpoint to past tempests. Mom's wedding anniversary bash. A backyard luau under string lights. Danced with joy. Luis's toast to found families hit home. Yet a call from an old mutual Alexander's assistant. Voice hesitant, shattered idle. He's asking about you. The book. Shook him. Pause. Then, therapy. Maybe. I declined details. But curiosity itched to want reckoning for him. Autumn's palette turned introspective. Sequel draft complete. Agent raving. This elevates universal yet intimate. Awards season loomed again. But focus shifted. Unbound's expansion to online modules. Reaching rural queers. A virtual panel with international voices, London drag poets. Mumbai activists broadened horizons. Queerness's global thread. Winter whispered closure. A holiday card arrived not from him, but forwarded. Alexander's holiday newsletter. Glossing scandals as challenges overcome. No personal note, but subtext screamed, unchanged. I filed it away. Unread fully. Past. Not present. Now. 27 dawns with purpose etched deep. Kai's hand in mine, it slams. Mom's calls brimming, grandkid hints. Adopted. Of course. Theo's college acceptance, creative writing. Full ride. Unbound Inc. thrives. Chapters sprouting. Paths uncrossed. Prayers evolving to indifference. For in depths plumbed. I surfaced, remade advocate. Artist. Alive. Love's true measure. Not endurance, but emergence. The nonprofit's momentum felt like surfing a wave, exhilarating. Precarious. Demanding balance. Unbound Inc.'s first fiscal year closed with grants doubling. Our reach threading into high schools wary of controversial curricula. I navigated board meetings and donated office space in Chelsea. Pitching expansions with data-draped slides, retention rates soaring. Participants reporting 40% confidence boosts. Skeptics, funders with conservative ties probed. How do you measure healing? I'd counter with stories. Anonymized, like Diego Sin-listed vet to published essayist. Metrics and lives reclaimed. Kai's presence steadied the surf. Our rhythms synced organically. Mornings co-working in his Bushwick studio. My laptop beside his drawing board. Creative cross-pollination birthing a graphic novel adaptation of Threads. His touch casual. Affirming eroded residual walls. One rainy afternoon. Sketching rain-slicked streets. He paused. Samuel. You're not just survivor. You're sage. Vulnerability reciprocated. He shared his own Fracturia mentor's betrayal in art school. Queerness weaponized. Shared scars stitched us closer. No rush to labels. Just presence. Mom's world bloomed parallel. Luis's influence softened her edges. They traveled Puerto Rico pilgrimage. Beaches healing old wounds. Her letters from San Juan. Scented with coquille calls. Mijo. Roots remind us we're vast. Inspired. I planned a family trip Puerto Rico for Unbound's cultural exchange. Workshops blending Spanglish verse. Theo tagged along. Wide-eyed at ancestral ties. Mom mentored him in bomba rhythms. Her steps teaching what words couldn't. Rhythm in resilience. Spring's thaw unearthed buried layers. Sorting storage remnants from the loft DESA flash drive surfaced. Labeled Our Beginnings. Heart thudding. I plugged it in, videos of Hampton sunrises. My laughter unscripted. Audio of poetry readings. His claps genuine. Nostalgia warred with wisdom. These weren't lies. But half-truths love's seed and controls soil. I archived it. Not delete. History informs. Doesn't haunt. The graphic novel collab hit stride. Kai's visual shadowed figures entwining, then fracturing amplified my prose. Pitches to publishers yielded bites. A small indie offered a deal. Cover reveal evoking fractured glass, mending to mosaic. Launch tied to pride. A street fair booth where we signed side by side. Fans queuing for dual autographs. You too glow. A reader gushed. Kai's grin. Shy. Team effort. Summer scorched with ambition. TEDx talks streamed globally. Views spiking. Invitations follow edkeynotes at Pride boards. Consultations for queer lit curricula. Exhaustion nipped heels. Boundaries blurred. Nights blurring into emails. Kai called it pace. Poet. World's not ending sans your yes. Retreat to the Berkshire's not Alexander's cabin. But a queer artist's commune recharged. Hikes through fern-choked trails. Bonfires with banjo-strummed ballads. Reminded, rest is resistance. Fall's harvest included hard-won fruits. Sequel acquired. Title finalized. Echoes of emergence. Tour planning intertwined with Unbound's national push satellites in LA. Atlanta. A funder dinner. Starched linens and schmooze. Tested poise. Spotting a firm partner Alexander's orbit froze me mid-sip. He nodded distant. No approach. Power's pendulum swung mindward. Winter wrapped in warmth. Holidays at Mom's evolved tradition. Unbound, orphans, youth without families joined. Tables groaning with multicultural feasts. Toasts circled to Theo's debut chapbook. Rose's transition fund success. Kai proposed we officialize, not rings, but shared lease in a Crown Heights brownstone. Build with me. His question. Soft over mulled wine. Unlocked floods, yes. Layered with history's weight lifted. New year birth bold. Nonfiction workshop launch, writing the unwritten self. Drawing dozens. Participants' breakthroughs, a closeted teacher pinning outing essays fueled fire. Personally. Therapy check-ins with Dr. Lena. Now peer. You're integrating shadows. Not exorcising. Yet ripples from past lapped unexpected. A journalist's interview veered. Any response from the lawyer? I steered firm. This is about forward. Not fixation. Off record. She shared. Alexander's firm dissolved post-scandal. Him relocated to D.C. Humbled per sources. Schadenfreude flickered. Extinguished by empathy's ember, perhaps he, too, grappled unseen. Spring 2029 bloomed collaborative. Graphic novel dropped to acclaim. Reviews hailing visual poetry of queer liberation. Kai and I toured panels. His dry wit balancing my earnestness. Mom's 60th. A surprise gala at the bookstore, balloons and Boricua band drew tears. Her speech, Samuel taught me freedom's gift. Summer's heat forged steel. Unbound hit 500 participants milestone. Gala fundraiser. Celebs lending shine. A donor's toast misfired, from victim to victor. Stung. I reframed in closing. Not victim. Voyager. Autumn Leaves fell as sequel launched bestseller lists. Teary readings. One in D.C. Irony thick. No sighting. But closures whisper. Winter's hush settled 28. Crown Heights home thrummed Kai's easel by bay window. My desk piled prompts. Mom and Louis-eyed grandkids. Theo apprenticed under me. Unbound global now. Virtual veins to Berlin. Bogota. Paths diverged decisively. Prayers to purpose. In emergence's embrace. I thrive lover. Leader. Legacy bearer. Love. Unchained. Illuminates infinities. The brownstone's creaks became lullabies. Each floorboard a note in our unfolding symphony. Kai and I navigated domesticity with playful experiments, Sunday markets for odd fruits. Walls papered in collaborative doodles. His graphic novel sequel brewed. My influence seeping into panels of resilient rebels. Mine. His line work etching emotional depths. Mornings. Coffee brewed strong. We'd debrief dreams, his of gallery shows. Mine of Unbound's international footprint. We're co-authoring life. He'd quip. Sketching my bedhead with affectionate exaggeration. Mom's milestone year post 60th amplified family ties. Luis's son from a prior marriage. Marco, a burly chef with a gentle core, visited. Bonding over grilling sessions in our postage stamp yard. Queer uncle vibes flowed. Marco. Straight but ally fierce. Grilled me on surviving the suits. Laughter bridged generations. Mom's eyes sparkling at the mosaic we'd become. Her volunteer stint at a senior center. Sharing migration tales. Inspired Unbound's elder chapter. Silver threads. Workshops for aging queers penning legacies. Spring's vigor propelled professional leaps. Sequel success spawned a podcast, Unbound Voices, serializing participant stories. My hosting laced with lived insight. Episodes trended, a trans migrant's border ballad. A black lesbian's corporate climb. Sponsors trickled queer brands. Ethical funders fueling scholarships. Personally, a solo exhibit invite for Kai in Soho. I curated poet responses to his art. Event fusing verse and visual in electric harmony. Yet growth's underbelly stirred doubts. A late-night call from Theo. Voice hollow. Crush ghosted me after I came out harder. My advice. Drawn from scars, grief's teacher. Let it tutor, not torment. Mentoring evolved, mutual as fresh eyes challenging my cynicism. Reminding youth's buoyancy. Dr. Lena's occasional check-ins affirmed, you're not just healing. You're holy ground for others. Summer Swelter hosted Unbound's first global summit, virtual hubs linking New York to Nairobi. Keynotes crossed oceans, a Kenyan activist on colonial queerness. My closing weaving personal to planetary. Post-event. Burnout loomed. Kai enforced unplug, a road trip upstate. Tent pitched by Finger Lakes. Stargazing. His head on my chest. He murmured. Thesusis, the plot twist I didn't see coming. Intimacy deepened. Not fireworks, but hearth bodies known. Souls synced. False ferment brought accolades. A MacArthur whisperno. But a Guggenheim nod for emerging voices in social justice lit. Funds bankrolled Unbound's youth residency. 6 months paid writing for prodigies like Theo. His acceptance letter. Read aloud over Zoom. Choked us up, because of you. Samuel. Winter wrapped in wonder. Holidays scaled up Unbound family potluck. Rainbow potpourri of dishes and disclosures. Mom announced pregnancy plan surrogacy dreams with Luis. Her joy infectious. Legacies living. She beamed. Kai and I broached it tentative, fostering. Horizons hazy, but open. New decade dawned. 2030 crisp with promise. Podcast hit top charts. Spin-off book anthologized episodes. Forward by me. Echoes amplify. Listen. Tours blurred cities, Toronto's snowy reeds. Austin's humid hugs. A detractor's op-ed, victimhood profiteering stung. Response essay. From wounds to wings. Went viral. Reframing narrative's power. Spring unearthed serendipity. Cleaning the brownstones attic leftover loft box sees a letter tumbled, my handwriting. Pre-Alexander. Dreams scrawled wild. Travel solo. Love fiercely. Write truth. Echoed present. A compass confirmed. Kai found me reading. Folded in, past Sam's proud. Summer symposium in Puerto Rico fused roots and reach. Workshops on beaches. Waves underscoring recitations. Mom co-led. Her Spanglish bridging. Theo's piece on heritage queerness drew elders' nods. Nightly bonfires burned intentions release rituals. Ashes to sea. Autumn's abundance, Guggenheim funded. Residency in Taos calling. Kai joined sabbatical. Our duo dynamic fueling cross-medium works. Sequels film option buzzed indie director. Queer lens promised authentic. Winter's introspection peaked. A anonymous donation to Unbound 6 figures. Note, for the light you shared. Scent of old money. But no name. Alexander's redemption arc. Perhaps. Gratefulness tempered suspicion. Funds built a Brooklyn satellite. Named Emergence House. 29 felt anchored. Mom's surrogacy journey began. Ultrasounds shared in group chats. Theo's first tour. Opening for Methyl Circle. Kai's proposal. Casual over dawn pancakes. Marry my chaos. Ringless. But ritual vows exchanged on our fire escape. City witnessing. Paths. His. Rumor has it. Solitary in DC corridors. Mine. Woven rich with kin. Craft. Cause. Prayers to presence. In every dawn. Gratitude reigns. Love's liberation. Eternal becoming.